All right, recording and transcript are going. So welcome again, everyone. This is the August Cloudy County Community Call. We are very excited for this one because this is another part in our series of Microsoft Teams Fundamentals, which has just been not diving too deep, but getting into some of the basic how-tos inside of Teams. And I feel like showing off some of the capabilities of Teams and some of the things that it can do that are pretty powerful. So my head, Joe, can you say something? My earbuds just
Yeah,
died.
you're sounding good.
Okay.
Yeah.
uh, so I'm not at home today, so I don't get to use my fancy studio with all my nice stuff. I'm wearing some Bluetooth earbuds and using a Surface mic and sitting in some random room somewhere. So hopefully this goes well. we're going to take a lot of turns going back and forth with our demonstrations because there's a few things on my side that I think I'll be able to demo that will come across well, and Joe's going to drive the rest of the way. Joe, we've only got a few things that are new, but before we get into that, I guess I should say we have a lot of new folks that are joining. We got to meet a lot of you at the Ag Agents annual meeting in West Palm Beach, which was a fantastic time.
That was awesome to get to meet some people in person finally.
Yeah, I really appreciated that opportunity and the way it just worked out that Florida was hosting, and that we could kind of get back to some semblance of normal-ish and see each other again and get to work with so many of you that we've worked with for the last couple of years, but finally get to shake hands and meet was a pretty special thing. We actually just released a new episode of our podcast today. Normally we don't promote that too hard to this audience, but one of the things that I think about this one that was extra special was we interviewed two of the employees from Microsoft who were on site at the Ag Agents meeting, and Microsoft was a big sponsor of the event this year, and so we thought it was funny. We have a Star Trek theme if you've listened to any of our podcast episodes. So we called this one First Contact between Microsoft and Cooperative Extension. And I think you'll appreciate, as an agent, I think you'll appreciate some of the things that they said. They're very honest and open, and I think that this is the beginning of something beautiful between Microsoft and Extension, and some more support, some more meeting users where they are is a mentality that Microsoft likes to embrace, and they just didn't know about Extension. So we try to tell them that you're all outstanding in your field, and now they have a whole new interpretation of what that means. So looking forward to that. So Joe dropped a link to that down in the chat if you're curious about that, and I'll grab we have a newsletter that goes along with it that I'll grab as well. But Joe, you want to kick us off with a little bit of what's new?
Well, sure. The first thing to talk about is shared channels has gone general availability. So everyone should be seeing that feature now as an option to create channels. We have touched on it, but it's something new to play around with. We think there's a great capability for internal use, helping to reduce perhaps the number of teams you're in going forward internally. We don't see a great use at this point across institutions on getting that to work outside of our universities. But at least we start having the option to take advantage of that internally in your institutions. That should be available now. If it hasn't been disabled, but it should come on automatic. So hopefully it's there for everyone. The next, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, there's a leaf blower right outside, so continue, Joe. I appreciate it.
The next one we're going to talk about is every meeting online. And let me get a share out here to explain what's going on there. And some of you might be encountering this. Let us know in chat if this is happening to you or not. There's an update in the Microsoft 365 cloud that occurred recently. There was an option to enable or disable this for across your organization, but it came default on. So you might be encountering something where if you start a new meeting, I'm going to start a new meeting here, and I'm going to invite attendees, you're automatically getting it created as a Teams meeting. If you have that happening, and perhaps you're not prepared to do that yet, or you meant to start a Zoom meeting and you're going to use Zoom for your option. What we're seeing, if you don't make a setting change at your org level, or if you don't make an individual change, is your meeting invite will have a Teams meeting link, and it's going to have a Zoom link if you're using that as your primary also. So we're going to show you how to disable the Teams meeting portion if you want to do that. So I'm going to close this, and we're going to go into, this is Outlook. We're going to go into File. We're going to go into Options. And in Options, we're going to go into Calendar. And in Calendar, we've got a new section right under the Calendar options, Online Meetings to All Meetings. And in here, you're going to see that it's default to add online meeting to all meetings. So if I simply was to disable that, close these options, I come back into a new meeting, I go up to invite attendees, I'm not automatically getting that Teams meeting. Now, if you still want to make it a Teams meeting, you can do that. You've got Teams meeting button up there if you've got that integrated and you're back in business. Hopefully that might reduce some confusion. We've had some people with this on, and people are joining the Teams meeting or they're joining the Zoom meeting and get lost at the beginning of some of those meetings. So that's one way to overcome that if that's what's happening in your organizations.
I'll pipe in here real quick about that experience that people are seeing. Because Microsoft Teams is integrated into Outlook, when the calendar reminder pops up on your screen, if it's a Teams meeting and that Teams information is in the body of the invite, you'll get a little button that just says join online, and you don't even have to go all the way into your calendar, right? It's because that hook is in the connection between the Teams client and the Outlook client. And so what we were seeing is some of our agents would schedule a meeting. This every meeting online thing gets turned on. Both options are available, and people just by default were just clicking join online. And so they were flooding into the Teams meeting, and the agent or a few people of the presenters are sitting there in a Zoom meeting wondering where everybody's at. So definitely caused some confusion. It is what it is. If your organization was affected by that, there was some notice that had gone out in the admin center, but luckily you are able to control that option yourself. Like Joe demonstrated, you can turn that kind of stuff off. So not a huge deal, right? A little bit of confusion, but I think it's fine. What's next, Joe? What do we got?
The next one was going to cover some new camera options.
Yeah,
I think that's something you're going to show there.
Yep, I am going to work on that right now. Give me 1 sec. I am just going to share my entire screen from my Surface here, and you're going to see the meeting itself, and hopefully you should be seeing my Teams window. When you go into what we have called the meatball menu, you have a lot of options here, right? And underneath device settings, you have some new options down at the bottom for automatically compensating for brightness, turning it on or off on your camera. So you'll kind of be able to see how I look like a little dingy, maybe at this point. Let me actually pin my video so that it shows up larger on the recording. So I can flip this button and I can brighten it up just a little bit, and it makes you stand out off of your background a little bit better. But while we're in here, without spending too much time on it, I wanted to show you some really, really cool options inside of the Teams application itself. So not connected to the meeting, but I'm just going into my regular Teams app. And we felt like this was a good thing to cover, because if we're going to talk about having meetings inside of Teams, well, we might as well show you how to look your best in the meeting that you're about to have. So if you go to the meatball menu that was up here and you click into devices, we are going to scroll down just a hair, and you might see a button that says open camera settings. This is going to give you really fine-grained control over a lot of the different elements of how you look on your camera. So I see my preview here, and if I click open camera settings, I can do some pretty cool stuff. Like, let's say I want to crop out something that's around me. I can zoom in a little bit. You can zoom in really far. Oh, that was too far. You can zoom in a little bit. You know, maybe bump it up just a hair to kind of frame yourself in the center of your screen. You also have some options here under video processing where I don't feel like this is what I really look like in real life right now. Like, I feel like I'm like, I don't know, what do you think, Joe? Do I look like pink? Like maybe I've been in the sun? I am at the beach, so maybe I have gotten more sun
You spend
than
a
I
lot of
thought.
time playing pickleball, so I think you probably got
I
a little.
do.
You got a little more
Whoa,
tan to
now I look
yourself.
like I just came off the surface of the sun. So we're going to drop this down. I happen to know for myself on this computer, around 2750 for the white balance is what I like. So I'll just arrow over. And I feel like this is more representative of what I actually look like. I will tell you, in my personal opinion, my personal experience, any automatic webcam setting is basically trash. They never get it right. They never get it right. They never get the focus correct. Like this camera, you're going to see different settings for different cameras. So like if you have like a Logitech camera, you might see different sliders and more checkboxes. But I can't turn off or on autofocus, but turn that joker off. Autofocus, terrible. How often are you like moving really far when you're on a conference call? Like autofocus would be great if you're trying to capture yourself, you know, playing football. But if you're just 24 inches away from your webcam and you're sitting there giving a presentation the whole time, there's no reason for the camera to have to continue to try to autofocus on you. And it almost never gets it right. So turn all that stuff off. Go into the meatball menu. Again, uncheck automatically adjust camera controls, and then you should hopefully see open camera settings. Asterisk, like I said, your mileage may vary because you might see something different than what I see if we have two different kinds of cameras. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay, so we have a slide, Joe, I think we're going to throw up. But while we're getting that pulled up, let's talk about our main topic. So if you're new here, what we'd like to do is cover some things that are new as they relate to Teams, as they relate to extension, and just the world. And then we like to dive into a particular topic and kind of cover the basics of that topic a little bit more in depth. Our topic this month is Microsoft Teams meetings. And we are going to tell you some things about Teams meetings that we have heard from you, from our users, from other people that aren't true. So, number one, you do not need a Microsoft account in order to join a Microsoft Teams meeting. That is inaccurate. You do not need to be an internal member of the organization. We have had people tell us, well, I use Teams meetings for when I meet inside, but anytime I do anything with the public, I have to use Zoom because they don't have Microsoft accounts. That's totally not true. You can join a meeting anonymously, essentially with no account whatsoever, and it will ask you to type your name in and you're on the call. You don't even need to have the Teams app to join a call. So the bullet point there, number 3, you don't need a Teams app to join the call. You can run Microsoft Teams on a computer directly through the web browser. So if you're giving a presentation or running a program that is, let's call it a webinar, it's a large publicly facing meeting, and a lot of the people are just the general population that you all are used to training and teaching. They don't have Microsoft accounts, they don't have Teams installed. That's fine. They can click your meeting link. It will ask them how to join. And Joe, do we want to just jump into that part? You think is this good timing for that? I suppose we had a comparison, and I think you're going to demonstrate it maybe later.
Yeah, we'll try.
We'll see how it goes.
You want me to what do you want me to pull up right now?
Pull up the web join experience slide.
Okay.
I think it's the next one.
Yeah.
So this is the experience that an end user would have, and maybe some of you have come into this meeting using this. So if you have, I would love for you to confirm or deny this in the comments section. I would appreciate it. But if you click a Teams meeting link, it will take you to a website that simply gives you 3 options. Go ahead and download Teams if you don't have it for your work or your school. Continue with your browser, or if you already have Teams installed, push this Open Teams button and it will launch the Teams app. When you click Continue on Browser, it's just going to ask you what your name is. You might get a pop-up that says, and this is not a Teams thing, this is like a Edge or Firefox or whatever. It might say, hey, you need to give this browser window permission to use your camera and your microphone. But it will then just ask you for your name, and you click join, and you're in the call, and that's it. I don't normally do a lot of trash talking, but I feel like I have to give you an honest comparison to the other product that is commonly used for meetings. When you click a Zoom link as a non-Zoom user, it automatically downloads the Zoom executable and puts it on your computer in your downloads folder. Like you can see down there, the red box is illustrating that it has downloaded the Zoom program automatically. You didn't even have a choice. It just initiates the download. There is no option on that box that's on the left where it says, once you install Zoom, you can click launch meeting now. There is no clear option that says you don't have to install Zoom. You can join it through a web browser. What you have to do is actually click launch meeting without having installed the Zoom client. And once you do that, you'll get a new box that says, hey, are you having problems? So Joe, I don't know if you can zoom in down there a little bit. Yeah, right down there. So it's actually going to give you a little itty bitty tiny link that says join on your web browser if you're having issues with the Zoom client. And then once you do that, it will open up a new window that will take you to the web page where you can type in your name and join the meeting. Same thing applies. You will have to give the browser window permission to use your camera and all that same kind of stuff. So again, we don't normally do this, but I wanted to be fair of the end user's experience here of what they're going to see, because I recognize your clientele typically are not people who have accounts in some of these platforms. So this is an important thing. Now, again, this is only for desktop. If you're joining from a mobile device, you must have the app installed regardless of which platform it is. So you don't have to have an account. You just have to have the app present on your device. So if you installed Teams on your phone, it's going to ask you to sign in because it thinks you must have installed this because you have an account, but you don't have to do that. You can just close the app out, and then when you click the meeting, it will launch using the Teams app. We have done that several times, actually. So that leads me right into that bullet point there is mobile apps are available for all platforms. And second to last is one of my favorites. You can be signed into Teams from as many things as you want. You can actually join the same meeting from multiple devices if you wanted to. There's a few scenarios where that might actually be useful. I might, towards the end of this, transfer, well, you can't see that. Yep, there's my phone. I might just transfer this call to my phone and walk outside, take you all to the pool or something. Maybe we'll hang out under a palm tree. So
it's useful. It's useful for bringing in a mobile device if you want to share a screen on there for some reason. There might be some type of app you want to show, or you need some help on an app from someone else. But you can bring
or a different perspective from a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you might be in the field and you want to transfer over, walk away from your desktop, sitting in your car, and go over into the field actually, and bring your camera along, and display that. Switch your camera out from the selfie camera, and walk around an orange grove or something like that.
Also, the last one was just for fun. I don't know why this happens, but people like to, I guess they like to scream Teams, and so they put it in all caps. I don't get it. I don't know why, but it's just a pet peeve. So I threw that in there. It has nothing to do with meetings. It just seemed fun. But it is actually just Teams with a capital T. Teams does not stand for anything. It's not an acronym. And funny inside story, we actually have a employment status within the University of Florida that is called Teams in all caps. And so sometimes people do legitimately get confused. Like, wait a minute, what are we talking about? Is this HR stuff or meeting stuff? And totally different. But all right, we're going to move into some demo. Joe's got some cool stuff queued up for us where he's going to show off the different ways that you can actually schedule a Teams meeting. And while he's doing that, I think we forgot one thing. We wanted to talk about some of the other facts on what do you get in a Teams meeting. There are some differences depending on the licensing that your university has. We showed you a way to check your licensing. I can drop a link in the chat. My account. I can't type.
Yeah, you'll find it under your user profile.
Mhm.
You'll find manage account.
Joe, can you just hit that real fast?
Yep.
Sorry, I don't want to derail you too bad.
This will take you out to myaccount.microsoft.com. And
this is important because there's some different capacity. There's some differences in capacity between what Microsoft refers to as an A1 license, which is the free version for education of Microsoft Teams, versus what is also called an A3, or at the higher level, an A5, which are paid subscriptions that your university might be providing you. So Joe's walking through this process here, myaccount.microsoft.com, or you can do it through Teams and click on subscriptions. And then you're going to click on, well, it's going to show you your subscriptions apparently.
Yeah, it might take you to this My Account initially here, and then you've got View Subscriptions here, and that'll give you your list of all your plans and features that you have enabled for your account.
Yeah. So you can see there, Joe has the Microsoft 365 A3 for faculty. This is why we need to point this out. The A1, which is $0 from Microsoft, includes a maximum capacity in a Teams meeting of 300 participants. When you have an A3, however, the maximum number of people that can participate in your Teams call is 1,000, and that's 1,000 interactive participants. There's another function in a Teams meeting called an overflow view that, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it has to be enabled. I don't think it's turned on by default. But
I don't think that is on by default either, but
yeah,
it's a quick little setting for your tenant admins to make.
But you can see there it says view only. That view only experience allows up to 20,000 people to basically not participate, and that means they can't have chat, camera, microphone. They're just basically getting a live stream of your meeting, and that meeting could scale to 20,000 people. So that's bonkers. Number one. Number two, it's very likely, depending on the licensing that your university has, that you already have access to a tool that won't cost you any of your, what we call 182 money, like what any of your personal budget that you have to spend to go buy a webinar license. You probably already have it provided by your university. So a meeting tool that can scale to 1,000 people, that's pretty powerful. So Joe's going to drop that link in the chat, which will show some of the maximum capacities and limitations of a Teams meeting. All right, Joe, I'm going to shut up for a minute. You talk about how do we get a meeting? Where do we start?
Sure. We've got a couple ways. One way that we're probably all used to, and probably I would say is kind of like our favorite. It's might not actually be in the Teams app, but actually just using Outlook to create your Teams meetings. And we'll show you one little aspect why that's helpful. So again, you're also very used to making a meeting. I still don't, in this case, don't have the automatic Teams meeting coming up. So I'm going to click Teams meeting. You should see that if you have Teams integrated into Outlook. I've got my Teams meeting set up. Usually you will have options down here now is something new. We've got a meeting ID and a passcode. That's something fairly new, is that you can join a Teams meeting with a passcode and a meeting ID. But these are your links that you're used to. That's going to be embedded right in your meeting that you send out. The option here that we want to kind of talk about is meeting options. So the first thing I'm going to do is just give this a title. And I'm going to make sure that this is actually a real meeting. I'm going to require someone to attend it. And we've got that set up now. Meeting options is really easy to get to inside of Microsoft Outlook, and that's one reason why we like to get to this. And this is where there's some important options around how you manage and how you're going to run your meeting. A lot of these options, you might consider some things around the security of your meeting. And what you're going to see here are, let's just stop at the top, start at the top, is your options for your lobby. For this meeting, we start with the lobby on, and that enables, for example, Dwayne and I to join early, and we can kind of prepare a little bit. We get the opening slide set up so that you know that you're in the right place at the right time. During the meeting, you are able to go in and change these settings and update them live. So we will often then, once the meeting starts, we'll turn the lobby off and let's let you all stream right in. Co-presenters is something that's new, and we'll drop a link with respect to some options with what co-organizers do for you versus a presenter and versus an attendee. But you might be familiar with co-host. This is probably a little different. Co-organizers allow us basically to get in and manage these meeting options. We used to not be able to do that unless you were a co-organizer. As a presenter in Teams, you have a number of options as a presenter that didn't really require something that might feel like you had to in a Zoom product. Presenters could mute people. You could turn cameras on and off, disable microphones. So you could basically manage most of the meeting as just a presenter. You didn't really need to have a true co-organizer role. Some of these options
I'll say
yeah,
something about co-organizer that is kind of nice. If you are hosting a public webinar, for instance, defining a co-organizer is kind of nice because it allows a second set of eyes to look at this page that Joe has right here, just to confirm that everything's set how it ought to be. Because we have had situations where we forgot to record a keynote or something like that. And if we had checked off the record automatically button, we wouldn't have had that problem. So it's nice to be able to just have somebody surf over your shoulder, for instance, just to make sure that all those boxes are configured the way you both want them to. So if you've got a co-pilot running a meeting with you, making them a co-organizer is not a terrible idea.
I'm going to add another person on this for continue the example here. Back into meeting options. In order to select a co-organizer, you do have to add them to the required line field, and then they are able to be selected. And that's also for the ability to pre-plan people who are presenters. So the default's going to be anyone. Anybody that joins this meeting, anybody can be a presenter. You might want to change that to anybody in my organization. So that's anybody at your university could be a presenter. That's helpful if you know that you trust those folks and bring those people in. Specific people and me and co-organizers. So specific people used to be available, and you could search for your participants, and they had to be someone who was, again, on the required field.
And this is the default from Microsoft. It is possible that your university decided to go with something a little bit more strict. So they could have set your who can present to only you or only me and co-organizers, I think is now the newest version of that. So it is possible that you see something different. We're just saying out of the box from Microsoft, this is what it would look like. So your mileage may vary again, big asterisk.
And we can continue on with some of these settings. Again, these are more along the security of your meeting, how you want to manage it, maybe how you want to manage to take questions, and we can mute the mic for everyone so that it's not available for them actually. I should say you can't mute, but there's no mic available for them to unmute and come in. Same thing with camera. Something that we feel is a little unique here with a Teams meeting is those are couple of settings that basically turn this into what we consider typically a webinar. You're a webinar, there's no camera from your attendees. There's no mic available for your attendees. Those couple checks right there, turn on your lobby, and you've basically got yourself what we typically are seeing as a webinar. You can also decide whether or not there's chat enabled or disabled, or maybe just during the meeting only. During the meeting
That's
only
a
is yeah, it's when to use that one.
Well, we set that here. That's a unique thing that we're going to dip into a little bit later. I think that that might be foreign to a lot of folks is the meeting chat that occurs in a Teams meeting doesn't disappear. It actually continues to live in the chat section of your Teams app, and you can filter and go back and see previous meetings to get that whatever was said or copy paste, or in some cases, if it's a recurring meeting, you can even continue the chat. You can continue to talk to people, which I feel like is really interesting that little workspace kind of lives on. You don't need to download the chat before you hang up to preserve it. It stays in your app.
One thought there would be someone who's maybe they had to drop out early in your meetings. They could come back in to that chat, follow along a little bit on what's maybe look at the recording, and they could go back in and participate in the chat, and maybe ask some questions after the meeting's over there. Reactions, you can turn those on or off if you want. Q&A is something that is quite new. It still has a little bit of work to do, but it's more of a managed question and answer capability. You can take questions from the audience. They don't have to be published out to everyone that is on the attending. So right now, if anybody puts a question into chat, everybody on the call will see it. Q&A enables you to kind of moderate those questions as they come in. Not going to cover that. It definitely has a little bit of work to go, we would say, before we would approve it. But those are the meeting options. Those are important to pay attention to, and that's why we kind of like Outlook, because those are very easy to get to and access them. We'll go show how this is done in the Teams app next. In Teams, I'm going to go to my calendar, and I'm going to pick a date. We're going to start a meeting. Give this a title. Can do the same thing, add some required attendees. And what's different with this right now is we don't see a way to set our meeting options. And that's kind of the part that's most annoying going this route. You actually have to basically create the meeting, send that out. It gets generated on your calendar. Make sure this one is set up. And go back into this meeting, and we can edit it. And we're going to have, where is it at? Meeting options. Now I can get into
That's important to what you just did is that recurring theme throughout all of Office 365 is anytime you don't see what you think you ought to see, check the meatball menu and you might see more options there. Like there's 3 more options that Joe could manipulate on this meeting. And it's, yeah, there you go. It's scaling it based on how big his app is on his screen, trying to fit what's relevant. So if you're not seeing it, click the 3 dots and look for meeting options. That's super important.
Yeah, and this will then open up a web browser where you'll need to be signed in with your organizational account to get back into those meeting options. And you'll find the same options that we've recently covered, and you can make those settings and make those changes here. And just save that. And now you're set.
Yeah, you could probably see why we like the Outlook experience a little bit better. It's probably more natural for a lot of folks to go into Outlook to schedule an appointment anyway. So you're just one click away from injecting a Teams meeting into that invitation. A couple things I'd like to address real quick are, number one, you can take that meeting invite. Joe, can you flip back over to the Outlook pane that you had? You can take that chunk of text down there and just copy and paste it and provide it to people in any way that you want. Let's say you're using Eventbrite as a registration mechanism. You could copy once you've got the Teams meeting scheduled and you've invited your co-presenters and made your options and got everything set, just copy and paste that information into Eventbrite, and then the public would be able to click it. Or maybe it's like super public and you just, post that bad boy on Facebook or something, you can totally do that. So once the meeting exists, copy the meeting information and share it. The second thing is there was some chatter in the meeting chat about co-organizer, and two great questions about, can I specify somebody from outside of my university to be a co-organizer? And it doesn't look like you can. So Joe, can you throw I don't know, a random account on the required line for that meeting and see if you can, I don't know, do that. But while he's doing that, I'm going to say the last time I tested this, you could not do that. And really, it's not a huge deal because co-organizer only gives that other individual access to see those meeting options. It does not give them any superpowers inside the meeting itself. We have done years of meetings where we had people from outside of our university come in, we promote them to a presenter, and they're able to fully moderate the meeting. Yeah, good call. So that does not show you that account you added that is from outside of our organization here, the Ship Show organization. So you can promote somebody on the fly, which we're going to get into, I guess, some of the controls and how to basically run a meeting and manage presenters and stuff like that. So you'll be able to see that, but don't worry about that too much. It's not a big deal that you can't make them a co-organizer, because that page that Joe has up on his screen right now, that's the only thing it prevents them from seeing. That's the only real useful part of being a co-organizer. As far as moderating a meeting and turning things on and off, presenters can do that too.
What do you want to cover next? Sorry,
Tatiana has a good question too about if you had an external speaker and they were stuck in the lobby, how do you let them in without letting everybody else in? And it would be difficult to demo, but I can tell you the experience because we literally just did it with this call. So we had the lobby turned on. I can see who's waiting in the lobby and I can individually admit them. So if you see Jean-Luc Picard as your upcoming speaker and he's waiting in the lobby, you could click the green check mark next to his name and it would allow him into the meeting prior to everybody else. And yes, we have done that also, that scenario several times with external keynote speakers and guest speakers and things like that.
Guess the next step, do you want to go into workspace, or you want a concept, or you want to manage a meeting, manage the people? Want to do that?
Let's do some meeting management. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
If I can break
you
this.
could actually join. So Joe's going to do something super cool here. So Joe is on this call from his regular computer. He's running the same Teams app on a computer that he uses for giving demonstrations, and it's just flat out tells him like, hey, you're already in this call. Do you want to join from here too? So watch this experience that he's going to get. He could add a whole nother computer to this call, which I just think is super, super cool.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I've got all the audio, video muted, turned off, so it's not confusing. Oops. Let's see here. I think I have too many other browser sessions up and running. Try this. There we go. That's the interface we wanted to see.
Okay.
I just want to add this device. Yeah, I didn't know why that wasn't showing. Demos. Yeah, this should be the first thing you get an option for, and This is the one we like here, transfer. This is the same option that you will see either going to your mobile device or coming from your mobile device. Maybe maybe you gotta run off, transfer to your mobile device, or maybe you have to start your meeting while you're on the road and you get into the office. You can transfer that to your office computer. But you'll see this. This is what we should have seen. I'm just going to add this device so I don't hang up this call.
We got the infinity loop here.
Yeah, definitely.
Sharing your screen, sharing your screen.
I'm going to pull up the people panel here, and this is where we can do things around managing the users that are attending the meeting. When you hover over someone who's in the attendee list, you've got attendees here right now. You can do some options with them. Disable their mic, disable their camera. We can spotlight this. If this person's video is on, we could spotlight that. So that's the only video that everybody sees. We can do things like make people presenter. There's someone here that we'll make Mr. Sterling. We'll move him to a presenter. And now John could be presenting if he wanted to, could share, which means that he could share content into this meeting. Could also assist with muting other people. So sometimes if you've got a large meeting that you're running, you might want an assistant. You just need to bring them in, add them as a presenter, and they can help you muting, disabling mics, things like that. So as a presenter, you don't have to. You can more concentrate on your presentation. Jonathan's done with his
co-pilot.
Yep, exactly. Facilitator, moderator, facilitator. We got a few names for our assistants that help. We can make and send back Jonathan back down in as an attendee.
That is a process that we, if you are an ag agent and you've attended the virtual AMPICs that we did over the last couple of years, that exact same action that Joe just did was literally done hundreds of times. As you're giving your oral presentation and you are the next one on the schedule, a facilitator who was not even the organizer of the meeting was finding your name in the list of participants, promoting you up to presenter so that you could take control of the slides or share your screen. And then when you were done with your turn, they were knocking you back down to attendee. And there's really, and we'll drop a link in the chat, but there's really only two roles that you need to worry about in a Teams meeting. It is presenter and attendee. And that's it. A presenter can do a lot of things. So that's why we wanted to make sure that you knew about that meeting security, the meeting options page, so that you didn't have, the general public coming into your meeting as a presenter. You probably don't want that. So having the ability to control the flow of the meeting is really important to understand how to do. Joe, can you show that real quick again, that little meatball menu there? Lots of useful things there. Let's say you started your meeting and you forgot to disable everybody's microphone. Well, you can do that super quickly. You are going to spend a lot of time inside of the participants list, the people list, and that 3-dot menu, that meatball menu there. You're just 1-2 clicks away from turning everybody's camera off or turning everybody's mic off. So Joe, can you go ahead, do that real quick, disable everybody's mic? So this is going to turn off the microphones for all the attendees. And you are going to see that they're grayed out now. You probably got a little purple bar that popped up on your side that gave you an indication to let you know that your microphones are gone. And so if we could have John Sterling, if you're still here, could you use the raise hand function? So you'll find that up at the top where it says reactions. So notice what happened here. This is a good trick for management of a call or a public facing webinar. You've got people, you've given your presentation, you've made sure it's safe by turning off mics and cameras, but now you want to take questions, and doing it through the chat sometimes isn't good enough. So in this case, Jonathan raised his hand. Could somebody else raise their hand? Just get a couple more to fly up there just for sake of the demo. So
Thank you.
check out what it's doing. It's putting them in order. And it's telling you, like, it's always done that. It's always put them in chronological order based on the point of time that the person raised their hand. But now it's making it even more clear to you that that's what it's doing, because it's putting a number next to it. So you've got, oh, this has been a great session. We've got so many questions. Let's get into it. So Joe can just right click or click the 3 dots on Jonathan's person and just say allow mic. And now Jonathan could unmute, ask his question. Hey, we answered your question. Yay. Right click on him again, turn his microphone off, and put his hand down, because that happens a lot that people forget to put their hand down. And so you could do all that all through this people menu. That's why I'm saying this is the most important menu that you have. And there's even a lower all hands, I think, right, Joe? The meatball menu at the top of participants. Yep. So we're done taking questions. Boom, put all the hands down. Lots and lots of things that you can do. And I feel like showing you this will probably help you understand why it's important to have a partner. Trying to do all this by yourself, sharing your screen, managing participants, it can be done, but it can be very challenging. So understanding that stuff is there is really, really useful, really important.
I think something to understand here too right now is that you could use your mobile device to manage the meeting. So I'm in the meeting again on my main desktop, and I have brought up another device of some sort where I'm managing these meetings. So like maybe if you needed to share your entire desktop screen, you wouldn't want to show yourself managing all these people that way. And you could do that on a separate device if you bring that device into the meeting. One other thing to think about here is, let's say someone was causing trouble and problems. You can, Laura, I'm not going to do it to you, but you could remove them from the meeting, and you can lock the meeting, and that will not allow anybody back in. The same as going back into our options. This is back into those meeting options. That would be the same as just turning on the lobby back on. Would be the same option of do that same process.
I could see like a person with like an iPad sitting next to them, on a kickstand or something, and they're using the iPad to moderate and manage the meeting, but they're delivering their presentation from their laptop or PC or something. So that's a good trick. Good tip, Joe. All right, we're going to be nice and give everybody their microphone back. So,
and we don't see it right now, but if there was a single person who unmuted, you would just in line with this attendees view here, you would see a mute all options. There'd be a quick way to mute them also.
Yeah, John,
right
John, can you come off mute real quick? Thanks for being like a super surprise assistant. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, now we see the mute all. So John, you're gone again. Thank you.
Yeah, that has freaked some people out. I have had some people say like the mute all button's missing. It's like, well, everybody's muted, so there's nothing to mute. That's why the mute all button's not there. I guess they were kind of hoping that they could mash it.
And make sure which mute all, because you can mute your presenters too.
So. Yeah, that could get you. Yeah, that could get you. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about a very unique component or part of the way Microsoft Teams meetings work. But before we get into that, Joe, could you drop that list of capabilities as it differs between a attendee and a presenter real fast? So I'm going to get my setup here.
Yeah, good to not forget that.
Yeah, that's a really good list to have bookmarked. Keep that on the ready, because it will very explicitly define what are the capabilities of a presenter, what are the capabilities of an attendee, and I think it even dives into some guest stuff too. But really, the biggest thing is presenter is almost always enough. I mean, it really is. We've done hundreds, maybe even thousands, I don't even know now, of meetings where people from completely outside our institution were made up to be presenters so that they could help moderate and facilitate a meeting for us. and it worked wonderfully. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a very unique part of Teams meetings. And before I share my screen, I'll just verbally kind of lay it out there for you. Whenever you create a Teams meeting, you are creating what I'll call a workspace. It's like a little bubble that all the things that are a part of that meeting are going to live inside of that little bubble. And one of the things that I love the most about Teams meetings is you can go back to that and you can continue to look at it or even continue to work in it. And this workspace is really, really beneficial and useful if you have a recurring meeting series. So as an example, for the annual meeting in West Palm, Joe and I delivered a presentation on PowerPoint. We had about, I don't know, what do you think, Joe, 2 months maybe of time to prep that we started prepping. And
Yes.
so we had 4 presenters. So we scheduled a bi-weekly meeting for an hour on every Thursday afternoon to talk about our presentation. That recurring meeting meant that that little workspace that we had, the whiteboard, we used Microsoft Whiteboard to sketch out and plan what we were going to do, our meeting chat, the recordings and transcripts and files that we had shared all continued to live on inside of that recurring workspace. And so every single Thursday, we were right back where we were the previous time we had a meeting. Or we also had asynchronous communication happening, which is, again, one of the things about Teams is super powerful, is you don't even have to be on a call with people to work with them. So that meeting chat that we had, I could still go into that chat. Like, we're not actively meeting on Thursday, it's Tuesday morning, and I just had this super awesome idea for our presentation. I could go to the meeting chat, I could type my message in and tell everybody about it before I forgot, and it's going to use it just like a regular group chat, except the members of the group chat are the people who were invited to that meeting. So I'm going to show you last month's Cloudy County meeting on my calendar for the Cloudy County team so that you can see kind of what this looks like, and I'll show you how awesome it is. So share my screen. Hopefully this is coming through okay. All right, so I'm going to go into my calendar and I'm going to go to last month's meeting. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. And here is the Cloudy County community call from July 13th. When I click on that and click edit, look at all this stuff that's right here in front of me real quick. So first things first is I want to show you the recording is right there available for me to access and rewatch it. I didn't have to go hunt for it. It's not on some random website somewhere. I didn't even have to download it. It's stored inside of the cloud, but it's still connected to this meeting. We've got the transcript. This is the spoken word. Because this meeting was recorded, a transcript is generated along with that meeting. And because I'm the organizer of the meeting, I'm also going to see that there's attendance. Now, up here, we've got chat. I can go back into the chat and I can see everything that was said. And if the meeting is set so that you can continue to chat after the meeting is over, you can keep on chatting. Joe and I are a member of a community called MS Office Hours, Microsoft National Office Hours. And the way that community meets is just a recurring meeting. And every once in a while, somebody will have a question and they'll just go drop it into the chat and it sends it to a couple hundred people who are a part of that meeting, and we can have that asynchronous communication. We also have files. So if we had shared any files, if I had used the paperclip on the chat, I could drop a file into that meeting and give all of you access to it. It would actually store that file in my OneDrive and it would show it in the Files tab there. So just to prove what I'm saying, we'll click on the recording. And I don't think I'm sharing my sound, which is good. Yeah. So I can click the recording and I get the new stream player, which is super nice. And as I watch my recording, I'll have the transcript kind of floating over here on the side of it. And all of this is done completely automatically for me. One nifty little feature of this too is I think you can right click. How do I get to this? I can't remember. Yeah, if I go to recordings and transcripts, again, that overflow menu. From here, I have the option to download the transcript as a Word document. Who loves taking meeting notes, meeting minutes? You know, raise your hand in real life if that's your favorite thing to do, is to take meeting minutes. You know, this almost kills that entire thing off. Like, we've had a joke for years about, you know, download this as a Word document and make this cool little quirky habit of your in your meeting of using a really weird word like cucumber and then say something, and you know, then you could just search through that document for the word cucumber, and you have said your meeting minute or your big point or a takeaway or an action item or something like that, and you can go and find them in that Word document, which is pretty cool. If I go back over to details, I can see the attendance. So hopefully this will load up here. So here's the attendance of everybody who joined the meeting. I can download the attendance report as an Excel file if I need to. Probably really important for an extension agent who has end of year reporting and impact assessments and stuff that they have to do. So keep that in mind. And like I said, chat, it's just right here. It's still going. I could even say hello to all of you. And it's going to send you, I hope this doesn't confuse anybody, but this is going to send you a chat message from me that's connected to the meeting that we had last month. So no need to download the chat, no need to try to screenshot or export. These are called meeting artifacts. That is the technical term from Microsoft, is it's a meeting artifact. It is something that was generated that is become a part of that meeting experience, that you can go back into your Teams app and you can get to it. It could be months from now, and I could go back to that calendar and I could download this recording, download the transcript, whatever it is that you need to do. And I feel like that concept is very different because there aren't any other meeting products that I'm aware of that work like that. Usually a meeting is this temporary blip on the timeline, right? Where we had a meeting and it's gone. You might have a recording of it, which is fine, but if you don't have the recording and you don't have the chat, like whatever happened is basically dust at that point. And so the concept of this portable workspace, this recurring workspace that you get with a Microsoft Teams meeting, I think is really, really, really powerful. And that was one of the things I was most excited to show off. And I know we didn't dive too far into the depths of Teams meetings today, but I did call this meeting part one because I anticipated at least 2 or 3 messages or I'm sorry, meetings about Teams meetings, because we haven't even gotten into some of the cool stuff like scheduling a webinar, you know, live events, which are gigantic productions. You know, some of the things that you can do with those are super powerful. So we'll probably go a little bit further into the rabbit hole of meetings next month. But I love the workspace concept of Teams meetings. And I think that was one of the big takeaways I wanted for y'all to have from this meeting today.
Yeah, I think we have, I don't know, we could probably go into a third with respect to things like actually pushing content in and sharing content, whiteboards, PowerPoint Live. Definitely some things we'll be doing
yeah,
in the future here.
I forgot about it. I'm going to pop a poll up real quick just for fun, make sure everybody's
And polls.
yeah, still with us. Actually, I'm not, because it says something went wrong. Please try again. So, well, you know what? That's the universe telling me that we were supposed to wait for that next month. Anyway, trying to jump the gun. But yeah, there's a concept of meeting apps that you can connect to a meeting that give you interactive workspaces like Microsoft Whiteboard. I had a post on LinkedIn that I thought was a lot of fun. Our internal learning community at UF, we did a highlight on Microsoft Whiteboard, and we had 100 people inside of a whiteboard at the same time, all drawing. It was crazy. You could see all their mouse cursors flying around
like
and
a beehive.
stuff. It was pretty wild. But yeah, we'll talk about meeting apps and webinars, I think probably next month. So I'm excited for those 2 things. I feel like those are going to be really enlightening. But again, go back earlier in this recording to the how to check your account. A webinar requires an A3 license. So just check and see what kind of license you've got from your university. All right, we're at time, but that doesn't mean we're hanging up. We're just going to turn the recording off. So if you're still hanging out with us this far and you have questions, when I turn the recording off, that's your time. We'll be here for probably about 30 minutes or so, hanging out. And if you want to ask us a question, we'd love to hear it. It doesn't even have to be about meetings. It could be about whatever. But thank you so much for hanging out with us this long. We appreciate your time and you being a part of this community.